It's Tuesday, April 8th. In the headlines, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness calls for diaspora to invest in Jamaica's development. Regionally, European Union ambassador urges Guyanese to use duty-free access to the EU. And in sports, American track legend Michael Johnson says he has no regrets about bringing the first event of his Grand Slam track series to Kingston. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is once again calling on Jamaicans living abroad to return home and invest in the country. It's the second time in 2 months he's made the appeal as he outlines his administration's vision for Jamaica's future. He made the call while addressing a diaspora forum at the Christ Way Baptist Church in Florida on the weekend. With major investments planned, Prime Minister Holness is urging Jamaicans abroad to be part of the country's transformation.
But I want you to buy homes in Jamaica. I want you to come back with the AI technology. I want you to come back with the cybersecurity expertise and set up business. Yes, I want you to come back to Jamaica and invest in Jamaica and help us build that economy.
In his speech, Dr. Holness also highlighted infrastructure development, including the government's $45 billion Spark program and the $3 billion REACH initiative aimed at improving roads and providing disaster relief.
With the good, solid economic management, that we are able to make allocations. Not enough for it to be done all at once. We don't have the capacity to do it all at once. We don't have enough contractors to do it all at once. But you know, the minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation responsible for works pointed out that no other administration has spent the budget that we have spent on the maintenance of roads in Jamaica.
On healthcare, the Prime Minister pointed to improvements over the last decade, crediting a budget increase from $60 billion to $140 billion.
We recognize that there is a human resource deficit, both in terms of the quality of the service, not the technical delivery of the service, but the care that is exhibited sometimes, the patience to the patient that is exhibited. And what we have been doing is we have recently put in place a major scholarship program that would support the training and development of 600 health personnel.
Dr. Holness acknowledged that pursuing the administration's vision may result in some displacement.
Cornwall Regional Hospital was a gift from our friends, the Canadians. It's a lovely facility, well-built, strong, robust facility. But like every man-made infrastructure, if you don't maintain it, it will become unusable, regardless of how strongly it was built. For the time that we have been in the cocoon trying to transform that building, people have been displaced. We have tried to put in measures, but it has had a displacing impact on healthcare.
However, he says this is a natural part of democracy in action. Under the Child Care and Protection Act, children under 12 are presumed incapable of criminal intent and cannot be prosecuted. But as serious crimes involving young children rise, calls are increasing for early intervention to address the root causes. Denida Rodney reports that the call was made by children's advocate Diana Gordon Harrison.
Speaking on the Jamaicans for Justice produced show Let's Talk Justice, Children's advocate Diane Gordon Harrison says more needs to be done in terms of character education.
We need to be looking at intervention at the early stage, not just the parent education and the education for members of the community and the typical sexual and reproductive health education, but more importantly, character education. Let us have it woven into the curricula of our various schools, and so we get beyond just good touch, bad touch, but we elevate it now to a level where youngsters understand appropriate interaction with classmates that is respectful. We have to look at the behaviors behind what they're doing that we're complaining of and see how we can disrupt that social molding that would have exposed the child, first of all, to the problematic behavior and then would have emboldened the child to do what it is that is being complained of in a particular instance.
She says young offenders are often shaped by their surroundings, and addressing these influences early is key.
Children below a certain age are deemed to be very largely the products of the adults who are grooming them, who they're exposed to in their daily life, and who they see as the examples. So society really is the one that is molding the particular product that we see.
Adding to the conversation, consultant forensic psychiatrist at the UWI Mono, Dr. Clayton Swell, says behavioral interventions are key to preventing children under 12 from engaging in criminal activities.
If you are acting then in the best interest of the child, it's important to then put in place interventions that help to manage the mood and behavioral issues that they may have that led to them carrying out these acts, and to put their parents as well and the community through programs that can help them to become better parents and more supportive and less likely to carry out inappropriate acts or traumatic acts of neglect or abuse to their children.
Economist and head of Caribbean Policy Research Institute, Dr. Damian King, is commending the government for what he calls a responsible budget.
This is an election year. I watched the presentations waiting for the big headline-grabbing economic damaging policy announcement that is designed to grab cheap votes. I didn't hear it. So the absence of such in the policies and programs is a takeaway. Apparently, nobody's running with it.
Dr. King says the budget is both credible and sustainable. But he warns that spending on key sectors like national security and health has declined in real terms.
The fiscal program is not seen as risky when your debt is down to 60% of GDP. So should the government continue to focus on debt reduction, or should it focus now on using some of the revenue dividend in other ways that may have positive effects? And we accept debt going forward that is not contracting as impressively. Capri's recommendation is that the government continue to focus on debt reduction. It is inherently a country in a vulnerable position, not only in terms of climate activities, but in terms of just being a small, open economy in a volatile world. Indeed, a world that has become more volatile recently. So it needs to have a big cushion of protection.
Still, Dr. King insists the government must stay the course on debt reduction, despite increasing pressure to loosen its fiscal stance.
When you owe 60% of your GDP in debt, you are less able to be resilient in such a world. We think the focus on debt reduction should continue.
With election on the horizon, all eyes will be on whether the government maintains its fiscal restraint. In this Living Healthy report, we bring awareness about violence against women and girls with disabilities. The feature is brought to you through the Pan American Health Organization, of which Jamaica is a member.
Around the world, more than 1 in 4 women will experience physical or sexual violence in their lifetime from a partner. However, for women and girls with disabilities, the risk of violence is even higher. They are up to 4 times more likely to experience intimate partner violence. Violence against women and girls with disabilities leads to health inequities and poor health outcomes. For example, they may face neglect, physical and mental abuse, and sexual violence. They may experience injuries, sexually transmitted infections, and post-traumatic stress. They may feel fear, shame, or feel trapped if their perpetrator is in their home. They may be reluctant to report violence or seek help because they may face stigma or fear being rejected. When women with disabilities report abuse, people often do not believe them. We need more programs to prevent and address violence against women and girls that are inclusive of those with disabilities. We must increase awareness of violence, educate on safety planning, and promote empowerment, self-determination, and sexual and reproductive rights. This includes monitoring and evaluation so we can better understand what works and what can be improved upon. We also need interventions specifically designed for those with disabilities who face violence and discrimination on account of other aspects of their identity, such as their ethnicity or socioeconomic status. It is important to ensure meaningful participation of women and girls with disabilities not only in these programs, but in other sectors and all aspects of society, working to eradicate violence. Women and girls with disabilities have the same rights to accessible, appropriate, compassionate, comprehensive, and survivor-centered care, and it is up to all of us to respond with respect, accommodate their needs, and eliminate the barriers that prevent them from using services. Violence against women and girls with disabilities is never okay. We must believe them if they report violence. We must work together to end violence and to achieve health equity for women and girls with disabilities. For more information and resources on how to prevent and respond to violence against women and girls, please visit www.pahO.org/en/topics/violence-against-women.
Time now for the Business Report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's Business Report. I'm Denise Williams, here to bring you the stories shaping the financial world and guiding your journey to smarter business decisions. Let's dive into the top headlines. Since the year 2000, investors could rely on Jamaica Broiler's dividend. Now with its US-based operations reeling from a US $13 million loss, the Jamaican chicken conglomerate will not pay dividends this year. The company's dividend policy mandates that it pays out 20% of its net profits in dividends annually. It has been paying a dividend in March, April, and October, November of every year since 2000. The board recently fired the entire USA division's management team due to the losses. Atlantic Hardware and Plumbing Company Limited raised $500 million in its initial public offering ahead of listing on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange on Friday, a feat the company described as a historic milestone. The listing also closed 5% oversubscribed, which included 499.9 million shares at $1 per share. This represented 20% of the company's outstanding 2.5 billion shares, which means Atlantic Hardware is now valued at $2.5 billion. For the trading period ending April 7, 2025, these were the most actively traded stocks. Toll road operator Trans-Jamaica Highway Limited US dollar shares with 20,050,886 units traded, representing 49.42% of market sales volume. Alternative energy provider Wigton Energy Limited with 5,279,142 units traded, representing 13.01% of market sales volume. Toll road operator Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited Jamaican dollar shares with 2,951,869 units traded, representing 7.28% of market sales volume. We now shift our focus to the Forex market rates set by the Bank of Jamaica. On April 7, 2025, the Bank of Jamaica reported US $56.05 million purchased and US $62.36 million sold by Forex traders. Forex traders earned $1.45 per dollar, selling the US at $158.64 and buying the US at $157.19. The Canadian dollar netted Forex traders $1.71 per transaction, with selling at $112.31 and buying at $110.60. The British pound yielded Forex traders $8.23 in profits, with selling at $206.03 and buying at $197.80. For our credit report tip of the day, let's be honest. Rebuilding credit isn't just about numbers. It's about navigating systems that weren't built to support you when you're trying to bounce back. But that doesn't mean you stop. It means you get strategic. It means you stay wealth-minded even when the system feels stacked. First, know your rights. You have a right to dispute errors and receive a timely response. Then keep a contact log. Write down the names, titles, and times of every person you speak with. Documentation is power. Now, rebuilding your financial life as a woman, a professional woman over the age of 45, can feel like an uphill battle, especially when life has thrown its fair share of setbacks. But stop praising the poverty struggle. There's nothing to be gained there. The people who are really succeeding are the ones who have a real goal to be wealthy. You have to fight to stay wealth-minded. So get up, get out, and get your fire back. Here are a few ideas to create an atmosphere for cash flow using the very life you've lived. Create a wealth map. List your skills, experiences, contacts, and passions as monetizable assets. Then eliminate toxic financial thinking. Remove guilt, shame, or it's too late thinking. And that wraps up today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, reminding you that every financial decision is a step forward to your future. Until next time, stay focused, stay informed, and keep striving for success. See you soon.
In regional news, Antigua and Barbuda's economic growth forecast for this year could be cut in half because of the impact of sweeping new tariffs imposed by the United States President Donald Trump. Prime Minister and Finance Minister Gaston Brown made the disclosure over the weekend.
The 6% growth Antigua and Barbuda hoped to enjoy this year is suddenly hanging in the balance. That's because of sweeping new U.S. tariffs announced by President Donald Trump. Tariffs, Prime Minister Brown says, will create economic ripple effects, reaching even the smallest, most vulnerable Caribbean islands.
I will accept that insofar as exports are concerned, that the impact will be minimal because we have negligible amount of exports. Mm-hmm. So insofar as exports are concerned, the damage will be minimal. Mm-hmm. But you have to look at the impact on the U.S. economy and what will happen to us. You also have to look at the impact on imports and the inflationary pressures that will carry prices here that will impact on our people.
And that inflation isn't just a faraway worry. It's a real possibility right here at home. Prime Minister Brown warns local prices could rise even further.
People now have to think about buying alternatives. Mm-hmm. buying local, eating more local food, fresh produce and so on, fish, even local meats, because at least those two will be impacted, because even the food that you buy for your animals
come from abroad.
Exactly, and the prices will increase.
Shipping costs are also on the radar. The Prime Minister says proposed U.S. levies on Chinese-built ships could push prices even higher, making imports more expensive and squeezing household budgets. But it doesn't stop there. A struggling U.S. economy could lead to fewer tourists heading to our shores. Yet another hit to the Twin Island states' bottom line.
If these threats persist, we may have to cut our growth rate maybe down to about 3%. And depending as to how this thing pans out, how long it continues, and whether or not there are any retaliatory tariffs against the U.S., because that's the other space you have to watch. If China, Mexico, the European Union, and so on, they place retaliatory tariffs on the U.S., you have another problem there. Remember?
So, what does this all mean for you? It could mean higher prices, fewer visitors, and a tougher road to recovery. The message from the government? Buy local and brace yourself. Jamie J. Roche, ABS News.
The European Union ambassador to Guyana, Ren Van Ness, during his remarks at the annual general meeting of the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association, encouraged local producers to capitalize on the duty-free and tariff-free access CARICOM member states have when exporting to the EU.
In 2008, CARICOM states signed the CARIFORUM EU Economic Partnership Agreement, EPA, with the European Union. This agreement covers substantially all trade between the parties and is considered one of the EU's most comprehensive trade deals with African, Caribbean, and Pacific states. On Friday, at the annual general meeting of the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association, GMSA, EU Ambassador to Guyana, René Van Ness, reminded local business persons that the agreement allows for duty and tariff-free trade. What that means is that Guyanese exporters can get their goods into European Union much easier, and the ambassador told them to capitalize on that opportunity. He acknowledged there are challenges with exporting to the EU, but offered some solutions such as training courses to comply with the EU's import regulations. Export tariffs are being perused more intensely following a recent tariff increase announcement from United States President Donald Trump. Trump declared the imposition of a 10% baseline and tariff on all imports to the United States, along with higher duties on dozens of other countries. Under this new policy, Guyana is expected to face a tariff rate of 38%. Vice President Dr. Barrick Jagdeo, during his weekly press conference last week, Thursday, assured domestic exporters that the Guyana government is engaging the United States administration regarding the new reciprocal tariffs. Jagdeo explained that this higher rate Guyana has is likely based on the fact that Guyana exports more to the U.S. than it imports from that country. However, there are exemptions for the new U.S. tariffs, which include petroleum products, aluminium ore, and gold, three of Guyana's major exports to the U.S. Meanwhile, the EU ambassador further revealed that a major pharmaceutical trade mission from the European Union will be in Guyana this June, a key exchange likely to support Guyana's plans to produce its own vaccine. For Newsroom, it's Anela Patwo.
With the threat of future pandemics looming, Trinidad and Tobago's Health Minister Terence Delsing says the country must be ready. He announced a $10 million World Bank-funded project, One Lab TT, aimed at tracking and fighting zoonotic diseases, those that jump from animals to humans.
In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic and with the prevalence of viruses which are moving between species and from animals to humans, Health Minister Terence Delsing says the country must prepare for the next pandemic.
We applied to the World Bank, having learned all these lessons, and the World Bank has given us, via PAHO, a $10 million grant to do what is called One Lab TT. What does that mean? Many of these viruses on many of these new diseases are what we call zoonotic.
The Health Minister said the bird flu has already been detected in cows adding that there have also been 2 deaths already from that particular strain of avian flu.
So this one lab TT is to bring together the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Agriculture, and the University of the West Indies to do genomic sequencing, treatment, and to identify the source of this new pandemic that we are going to get.
The health minister was a guest on TDT's Talk City 91.1 FM Titans of Democracy program on Monday.
In sports, we go trackside with athletics. American track legend Michael Johnson says he has no regrets about bringing the first event of his Grand Slam track series to Kingston, Jamaica. 12 Grand Slam champions were crowned at the National Stadium over the 3-day meet, each earning $100,000. Though Mr. Johnson wished a larger crowd, he believes it was still the right decision to kick off the series in Kingston.
We wanted to honor the heritage of Jamaica and the impact that it's had on the sport. I think that we did that. You know, one of the things that was really important for me in starting Grand Slam track was to innovate in the sport, to modernize the presentation, modernize the concept, but also stay true to the roots of the sport. And as a historian of the sport myself and appreciate the history of Jamaican track and field, I wanted to come here, and I think it was great. It was a really cool vibe that we had here.
The 4-time Olympic champion says it was not always smooth sailing, but the lessons from the first meet will serve them well going into the Miami leg of the series, May 2 to 4.
Now that people have seen it, now the athletes have been through the process as well, right? Now it's familiar. So I think you'll see even more engagement from fans. They understand the format, they've seen it. I think you'll see more from the athletes, better performances even, because this league has a tremendous amount of parity. They're all the best in the world, so you're not gonna see the same person winning every single time. I don't think you're gonna see Sydney win every single time. And that's saying a lot, right? That's saying a lot.
Over to cricket. A half-century from Shabika Gnabi wasn't enough to save the West Indies women as they lost to Pakistan by 5 wickets in their warm-up match for the ICC Women's World Cup qualifiers in Lahore on Monday. Batting first, the West Indies posted 188 for 8 in their 50 overs, with Gnabi scoring 68 of 78 balls, including 7 fours. Janila Glasgow also contributed with 41 runs. Pakistan's bowlers Sadia Iqbal and Nashra Sandhu were key in restricting the Windies, with Iqbal taking 3 wickets and Sandhu grabbing 2. In reply, Pakistan chased down the modest target of 189 with ease, thanks to solid batting from vice-captain Muniba Ali, who scored 87 from 113 balls, and Natalia Parvez, who made 53 from 60 balls. Pakistan reached the target in 47.2 overs, losing just 5 wickets. Final scores were West Indies 188 for 8, Pakistan 192 for 5. And that's it for the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.